Dear students, in the last video, we actually know what exactly the system testing and also what exactly the differences between the distinction between system testing, acceptance testing, as well as in regression testing, right? And also we know the introduction related to system testing and what are the major points related to system testing and all, right? So in this video, we're going to see what exactly the meaning of acceptance testing, right? Even though the acceptance testing is a part of system testing, there is a clear small difference, but it's clear difference between system testing as well as acceptance testing, right? So we're going to study what exactly the distinction. So what exactly the acceptance testing is, right? So this acceptance testing is a type of testing carried in order to verify, right? Carried in order to verify if the product is developed as per the standards, whether it's actually according to the standards or not, and specifies criteria and meets all the requirements specified by the customer. So before developing the product, they have given the requirement specification, right? So after building the product, so it will going to check that it's going to verify if the build product is actually according to the standards, is according to the specified criteria, and is going to meet or it's already whether it's already met the requirements specified by the customers or not, right? This acceptance test is something like with something like whether the user can able to accept the product or reject the product, so, okay, based on the requirement matching with the requirement with the product, right? So if there is no requirement, it's actually if the built product is actually different from the requirement, means of course the user or customer is going to reject the product. So if the built product is according to the customer's requirement specification, means the customer is going to accept the product. So its name is nothing but acceptance testing, right? This acceptance testing is the system testing, of course, a type of system testing to determine whether to accept, right? I already told you, right? Whether to accept the product or reject the product, right? Accept the delivery of the system or reject the delivery of the system. The main goal is nothing but establish a confidence in the systems. Okay, so it's something like establishing the confidence, like a system is something like positive way of building the confidence. Right? That's why its name is acceptance test, not a rejection test, right? Acceptance testing is most often focused on the validation type testing. Okay? So verification is over. It's actually validation. Validation in the sense it's going to validate whether the system is valid or not. Right? The acceptance testing main focus is to validate the system whether it can be it's according to the system user specification or not. The main purpose of this one system is to actually guide a decision whether the product in its current state should be released or not. Okay, so once you be actually ready with product, the final release of product, so after conducting the acceptance test, we're going to take a decision whether we're going to release this product or not. If the result of acceptance test is positive, I mean if the requirements actually meets the actual system functionality, then we are going to release the product. If the functionality of a system is not uh, matching the user requirement, we are going to reject the product. That's why the decision is in the hand of result of acceptance system. Okay? The decision can be based on two types actually, a measurement of two things. Measures of the product, that is one thing, and is based on measure of the process. One is measure of the product, another one is measure of the process. What exactly the measure of product and measure of process? Measures of the product are typically some inference. Okay, it's actually inference of dependability based on statistic testing. Okay, they will conduct the statistic test, so they will check the dependability according to the statistical test. So whether in the same way, the measure of the process is nothing but it's based on comparison to experience with the previous product. So measure of process is nothing but the experience with the means comparison. So they will take the old product and they will compare the old product with the new product. This is like based on the measurement of a process. The measurement of the product is nothing but conduct based on the statistical testing. Whether the dependability is actually based on statistical testing or not. We're going to check the product according to the statistical testing result. Okay. So that's why in the third point they have clearly mentioned that although system and acceptance testing are closely tied in many organizations, fundamental difference exists between searching for the faults and measuring quality. Okay, even though both are same, you can say both are same, there is a different way of searching for the fault in system testing as well as acceptance testing. Okay, they will follow different approach to detect the faults. Okay, even when two activities overlap to some extent. Okay, even when the two activities overlap to some extent. For example, if two activities are actually going in the same way and the same direction, means it is actually essential to clear about the distinction. Even though if the two activities going in the same way, we should know it's actually essential to know the distinction between these two if you want to avoid the unjustified conclusion. Okay, so if you know if you assume that both the system testing or acceptance testing are same, if you conduct if you actually going to miss the acceptance testing, there may be a ambiguity coming to the conclusion. Okay, that's why it's very essential to conduct acceptance sense after conducting the system test. That is the main idea of this point. Okay, that is related to acceptance test. So when you in the ask regarding acceptance test, you should write those points. Okay, this is different points and this is different concepts. That's called usability. The usable product is quickly learned, allows user to work efficiently and is pleasant to use, of course, right? That's related to usability of a product. Usability involves objective criteria such as the time and number of operations required to perform tasks, the frequency of user error, in addition to overall subjective satisfaction of user. It's something like usability. So what exactly the usability? So it's related to what? Such the time and number of operations required to perform a task. So if for example if you playing one video game means how much time required to finish that game or how much time you're going to play the video game. So if you consider video game as a one product, the time it takes and number of games you want to play, it plays a major role coming to the usability theory. Okay, that's why the time as well as the number of times you're going to play the video game actually comes to the satisfaction of user, right? So if you say usability means it's related to satisfaction of a user. If user is satisfied with the product means of course they are going to play a game more and they will going to play more number of times, right? If you are actually addicted, for example, if I say if you are playing some PUBG in a mobile game, so if you are addicted to PUBG of course the quality of a game is good. That's one point, right? The user actually satisfy with the use of that particular game. You can consider that example also. The process of verifying and validating usability includes the following main steps. Okay, so coming to the usability, how do you going to verify and validate the usability? There are actually different steps are there. First step tells you that inspecting specification with usability checklist. So you're going to inspect the inspection provides early feedback and usability. Okay, so you're going to inspect the specifications with the usability checklist, whether it's going to satisfy this product, if this function or not. You're going to check each functionality of this specification. Okay, testing early prototypes. So you're going to test the early prototypes with the end user to explore their mental model. That's called exploratory test. Okay, so if you want to know if you want to conduct the exploratory test, you should know exploratory test is nothing but a testing is there that is going to tell you about the mentality of a user. For example, if you want to build one game, you should know how the user mentality is, right? Of course, user always, as a customer, you people need to think like a customer only, right? You people should think like a customer, then only you can build a good game or good product, right? So if I want to develop an app actually which is related to some online purchasing, I should first think myself as an user, and I should know how my requirements are, right? How should my interface is related to use of a product, right? That's why due to the best interface and all, the Amazon as well as Flipkart is considered as a best online web application app, right? Because of its interface with the user, because of its usability. The owners, the designer who are developed those particular apps actually better know the mentality or of course the mentality of a particular customers, then only that's why they built a good application, right? See, it's better to develop a best mental model. Testing incremental releases with both usability experts and end user to monitor progress and anticipate the usability platform. Okay, incremental release in the sense not release at once. Incrementally they want to release the product. System acceptance is the last steps that includes expert based inspection and testing, user based testing, comparison testing, and analysis and checks are often done automatically. Okay, these are all different steps which involves verification and validation of a usability. Okay, so last thing is related to sensitivity testing. What exactly sensitivity testing is? Small concept. It's actually they are going to conduct the sensitivity test to determine which parameters are critical. Okay, while performing the test, they will conduct the small sensitivity test to know about that parameter which actually a critical. Okay, it, this testing consists of repeating statistical tests while systematically varying parameters to note the effect of each parameter on the output. So there are different parameters are there, right? So they'll keep on varying the different parameters, and they are going to check whether this type of parameters actually working or not based on the functionality of a particular product. Okay, a particular parameter may have little effect on outcomes over the entire range, or there may be an effect that varies smoothly over a range. Of course, they have given one example also in the last point. If the effect of a given parameter is either large or varies discontinuously, for example, consider this main example they have given. If you have a system, right, which actually loaded if it's cross loaded, if the system load crosses some threshold, what will happen? The performance will be degraded, right? That is the major point. Here the performance is considered as a critical parameter, right? The same way we have different critical parameters are there. Here they have mentioned one parameter, critical parameter, that's called performance. Performance falls when system loads crosses some threshold. That's why if the effect of a given parameter, in this case performance, is either large or various, it is actually going to degrade, then one may need to make distinct prediction of different value ranges. Okay, sensitivity testing is nothing but you are going to check the parameter, means critical parameter, right? They have mentioned one example also, the performance parameter. If the system load crosses some threshold, of course the performance will be low. So regression testing, right? After acceptance, we come to regression test. What exactly the regression testing and all? It is a type of testing carried out to ensure that changes made in the fixes are not impacting the previously working functionality, right? Something like rechecking. In first slide also we have noticed the difference between three test: system test, acceptance test, and regression test. So regression test is nothing but rechecking the already checked system. I mean retesting the already tested test cases. That's why it's just making make this, it's a test which actually make you sure that the product is actually working fine, or it contains error free product. Okay, the main aim of regression testing is to make sure that changed component is not impacting the unchanged part of component. For example, if you actually changed some parameter after performing some testing and all, you're going to perform this regression test whether the change is actually affecting the old original product. And for example, if you finally join the already built product with other system, of course there is a change in system functionality, right? So the final test when you actually conducting after joining the subsystem, something about regression testing. Okay, that's why it's also considered as a retesting. It means retesting an application after its code has been modified to verify that it still functions correctly, right? Of course, once you actually change some you actually made some changes to the code, then after executing all the test cases, if you apply or if you made some changes to the code and then if you test that one, is considered as a regression test. Okay, something like retesting after making changes.